Welcome back to Outdoor Exploration. Today we have come to a place I come quite frequently called Guild Creek on Necessitated, also known as Bowen Island, because it's been raining a lot, and this creek changes all the time with the rain. Not so much right here in this little spot, although you can see branches collecting here and various logs and rock movement, but it changes a lot down there, as a lot of creeks do, and I thought it would be fun to explore. So this is where we are. We are accompanied by some rutting deer at the moment who seem to be lustfully chasing each other around the woods, and yeah, who knows, maybe we'll see them again, but it's the season for lustful deer. Let's go. This little island wasn't here the last time I was here. It was sort of a spit coming out from there, and I see it's becoming an island now as more water, I guess it's just gotten so high that it's coming around that side too. And this side is carving its way under the bank, you can see. So I suppose this is the typical serpentine river effect, where the more it goes around the corner, the more force there is, and the more it digs out from the bank, and the more serpentine it becomes, twisting through the landscape. Of course, in the summer, this whole spot is barely full of water, just a little tiny, maybe inch deep covering of slowly moving water. And this isn't very fast. We've come a couple days after the rain, so let's see now how I can actually get myself back out of here. Ooh, it's quite slippery. The ground right here is clay, well, in a section here, and it's covered in moss or some sort of algae, which is making it very, very slippery. So I'm happy to get out also before it becomes about a meter deep over there and my gumboots won't suffice. So this is quite a dynamic looking thing here. A lot of this whole side of the mountain here and down, this is actually into the valley below, it actually was burnt about 100 years ago. So this is a burnt cedar shell, or what remains of it, and it's just fallen over, but doesn't it look dramatic? This is not a place you would want to be in a storm, for sure. Look at this mess back here, all the broken and fallen tree pieces. So this is the beginning of where things start getting messy, let's say. If you consider the landscape and how it's working, right here it becomes really gravelly and flattens out. So this whole area is changing every year. I come here probably every few weeks throughout the year, and honestly, at least every month or two, the creek has changed. So if you see over on that side, I'll go over here a little bit. Across there is a little tiny bit of water flowing along, and a whole bunch here. At other times, the entire creek is over there. And this can change like 2 or 3 times in a year. It's all over there, or it's all over here, or it splits evenly or not so evenly, or the whole thing floods and this cedar tree here in the middle is just standing there in the water. And that kind of flooding only stays for a couple of days, I think, at a time, maybe up to a week. But yeah, and then you can see, because of all the flooding, these old alders are rotting and falling in the creek. And of course, that's damming it up in different ways. I think it may have come this way right now because pieces of this alder are blocking it from going there. So then, you know, all the other debris, leaves and sticks and even rocks get pushed over there and dam it up. It's just so cool to me to see how it moves and lives over the course of the year. And I always think about the animals, not so much deer, but you know, tiny things that live in here, and how their whole entire life and their community of whatever beetles or snails or, you know, crayfish and freshwater shrimp are living in here. They have to change all the time. They have to adapt constantly. Anyway, it gets more exciting, so come over here. Yeah, this is one of the most bouncy logs I've ever walked across. So this cedar tree has fallen here, and I don't think it has made a huge difference in the creek movement particularly, but it's knocked over a lot of other branches that have. Turn around, look behind you. That was cool. Also rather smelly. He kind of smells like I don't know, a sheep barn, or I think when they're rutting you smell them a lot more. Anyway, he's out there somewhere again. What was I saying? Oh, so the branches and things that have fallen into the creek and impeded the flow from over there, where frankly most of it was most of the creek was the last time I came here. It's all rushing down here and carving away this gravel that built up while it was over there. And in fact, if I stepped over here, well, I wouldn't do it, but this just hangs right out over the clay that's being carved away under there. And over here, it's interesting to note actually that maybe about 5 years ago, I came here with a group I was leading, and the whole place was covered in trees like this, and it was, you know, a big adventure to go exploring around them and under them and in the creek that was moving around. But probably by 2 or 3 years after that, the trees were gone. They had rotted, crumbled into the creek had smoothed out again, and now we're back with all the fallen trees. It's such an interesting cycle to me. Here's one of the more exciting parts. This is the end of the same cedar tree with, you can see all kinds of small cedar trees have been knocked down over there, and they're split in half, and then this massive big old burnt cedar shell has fallen. And if you look down there, there's the creek. Well, at least there's most of the creek. Part of it still comes around behind, but look how far down it is. It literally carved out so much of the clay, it's just made itself a pool with pretty much vertical walls. Looks like it's about 2 feet deep down there. So this whole thing happened within the last year. I can't remember, quite honestly. It might have been less than a year. Something I love about it is how, like, if you look just over there, there's this teeny weeny little white mushroom growing on this mossy log. And it's like, whatever happens in the wilderness, whatever happens in the landscape, whether the creek moves, the trees fall, everything just picks up and keeps growing wherever it needs to be. So there's the little tiny mushroom, the moss is still all growing. There were licorice ferns back there on some of the chunks of alder that were knocked off. They're just growing on the moss on the ground now. And yeah, it just, everything just moves over and keeps on going. A good metaphor for resilience. We could all learn from it, myself especially. Look, here's the underside of the cedar that fell, with a lot of rich black dirt, which I imagine would be quite acidic from being under a cedar, but it looks so healthy and great. I wonder what lives under there. I don't see anything. Just a little tiny bit of the creek coming through. Wow, though. Look at this. Imagine all the various things decomposing. to make this amazing dirt. Like that still standing cedar shell over there. Let's go look at it. Look at my hands. Here's one of the cedar shells, burnt out ones from 100 years ago or whenever that was, that is still standing, has not been knocked down. I can't quite fit in there, it turns out. Well, I could, but not without turning all my clothes black from the charcoal, so I won't do that. But interestingly, around here we have a bunch of garbage, and you might ask yourself what metal roofing and fabric, I guess bird fencing or something, is doing here with this little makeshift fence, I guess. And I'm pretty sure it's an old abandoned marijuana / pot plantation. Seriously, one of the best things about legalizing weed in our country is that people aren't doing this as much anymore, because this is awful, really. Can you imagine being a deer stuck in this stuff, or a bird, and it's just left out here? So yeah, I'll have to come back and take that apart, I guess. But I wish people who were doing things out in the woods would clean up after themselves. Here's where the creek begins to slow down again. Look a little bit more pastoral for a bit. And oops, I'm walking into a spruce tree. Ouch. Ow. Interesting though, there are a few young spruce trees around here, and that tells me it's getting to be a slightly older forest. I mean, they're tiny. This is what, 10 or 12 centimeters diameter? Not very big, but anyway, let me inelegantly jump down here and see what I find. Oh, it's so beautiful. Some foam. This is interesting. There was a question about actually the foam that you see on cedar trees after a rain on our local forum recently, and I didn't know what caused it. I've seen it before, but I always assumed it had something to do with sap mixing with water as the water came down the tree. So I looked it up, and I think it's very similar to the foam that you find on creeks when they start flowing more or less in the summer. It turns out it's air pollution, and I'm guessing also, you know, the dust that gathers up on the tree, and maybe even sap too, but all the various chemicals that are in the air and the, you know, dust and the tree bark, and in this case in the water and sloughing off the land here, they just sort of get frothed up by the moving water and help it become foam. So that's interesting. One thing I love about creeks, I'm always kind of slow about stepping because I'm afraid of stepping on animals, so hopefully things like crayfish can scurry out from under my feet. But I hope I don't sit in the water here. But I love the clay that's in the banks of the creeks. That basically the creeks are carving away the landscape and exposing this clay from who knows when. Apparently, I have learned from my friend Bob that most of this island was actually compressed by the glaciers during the Ice Age. And so the island was under sea level, and then the glaciers melted and it remained under sea level because it had been so compressed. And then over massively long amounts of time, it slowly came up and up and up. So clay and also sand and sometimes fossils are there from sometimes the beaches and sometimes old water, you know, like this could have been an ancient creek, or maybe it was part of an ancient beach. And you find this clay. This is some quite nice clay, actually. It's a bit soggy being under this gorgeous waterfall. a tiny little waterfall. But really nice. And all full of rocks. Actually, you can see the layers. There's this layer of rocks, some granite and some other rocks. I don't know the names of them all. And yeah, so here's some more sandy, dirty clay, and then this is this super soft, moldable clay, and then the layer of bigger rocks and some layer of sand and dirt, I guess, from more recent degradation. There's some clay in there, sand and clay and dirt. Oh, I'm getting quite wet. And then just the plain, fresh humus, I mean, not hummus. You don't want to eat this on your tortillas, do you? From the rotting plants up there. Just black stuff like there was under that cedar root back there. Look at the difference. So cool. And then there's some moss. There's a couple types and some grass growing down on there. Kind of don't want to let go of this awesome chunk of clay. Well, anyway, I think that might be about it for today. That was a fun explore. Fun to see what the water does to our earth. And something to take into consideration when we're living on it. Happy exploring!